Don't judge a book by its cover, they say. And in most cases, that is true, because some books don't even have covers. You know those blank ones you pick up and you turn them around and it's just like one solid color? Except on the inside, it's a sparkling world of characters and stories that take away the dullness of the dull cover. However, I've come across a new saying that has made me laugh and is now something I think about all the time. Don't judge a book by its cover? Well, don't make a shit cover. And damn, I can't debate with that. Anyways, I'm saying all this because that is a saying that usually applies to people. But in terms of fiction, of stories, of the make-believe, judging a book by its cover is exactly what authors want you to do. Not for the physical book itself, but for their characters. Character introduction, in my opinion, is one of the most important aspects you can possibly have of character. Because not only is it our very first look of said character, but it's our first look of a new addition to the story. A lot of audiences from the get-go subconsciously decide if they like a character from the introduction alone. A good introduction is crucial in making characters stick, especially big ones you want people to remember. An extremely famous and very well done one, for example, would be Hannibal from Silence of the Lambs. Now this movie is a bit scary-wary, so you don't have to see it or anything, but just know a lot of people remember this guy's character prominently, especially that stupid little sound he makes. And it's all due to the power of his incredibly well done introduction, unsettling shots and all. But of course this can be used the opposite way as well, where the writer wants you to purposefully not look at a character or think differently of a character so they can misdirect you with whatever plot twist they're trying to set up. And I cannot believe I'm using this as an example, but a legitimate good example of this is the first Saw movie. Yes, you heard me. Saw. This one is interesting because we heard our main villain's voice all throughout the movie. We knew of Jigsaw and his little puppet. We were getting an understanding of his character and morals throughout the whole movie. Until boom! It turns out Jigsaw himself, aka John Kramer, was on the floor the whole damn time. It's not a fantastically written movie by any means, but this was still a fantastic moment everyone remembers well. Because we finally get introduced to the actual villain of this film. And it turns out he was lying in front of us all along. Wait, please don't click away. I promise this is a One Piece video. I just think Saw's really funny. But what I'm trying to show you guys here is that introduction leaves an impact, and it can be used in multiple ways for multiple purposes. And something that stuck out to me while watching One Piece is just how insanely good character introductions were. Because believe you me, Oda wastes no time in establishing everything we need to know of a character in a matter of seconds. It's absolutely incredible to watch or read, and it's why I'm always excited to meet new characters in this series, because I know One Piece will not disappoint in the epic introductions department. In this video, I'll establish what I think some of the best character introductions are in One Piece, and how Oda's refined this so well, it's genuinely amazing on a writing level. I swear I'm not trying to be your English teacher, I just enjoy showing people the way I see One Piece and why it captured me so. But before I do that, it's sponsor time! While we cannot all be pirates in our current day and age, we can still be pirates online, and we can do that safely with Atlas VPN. If you're not a tech nerd like me and have no idea what a VPN is, a VPN makes it so all your internet searches, browsing, and history is completely protected. It's sure to hide your IP address and keeps you safe from spying, especially from the pesky FBI agent in your computer who's watching you look up Zoro's big fat boobies as we speak. But Atlas VPN isn't just a VPN, it also protects you from pop-up ads and malicious malware. It can also give you access to any country's version of Netflix or multiple other streaming services. I mentioned Netflix specifically because did you guys know multiple One Piece movies are on Australian Netflix? And with Atlas, you, yes you, can take advantage of Atlas's Black Friday sale. You can get a 3-year subscription from $1.70 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Even better than that, if you use my link in the description below, you get an 86% discount for premium subscription. Snatch that deal while it's hot, and thank you so much Atlas VPN for sponsoring sponsoring this video. I won't let you down. Okay, let's get into the miraculous world of One Piece and the insanity of introduction excellence. Here's the thing about One Piece. It's a colorful world. This whole series just pops at every angle and at every point. This is a series that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. From the ships to the islands to the characters, there's an insanity of scale at every corner of this world. And I don't just mean physically, because the men in One Piece grow like sharks. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about, because sharks never stop growing, and that's kind of horrifying to me. But I mean in a writing sense. These characters are large. In terms of their environments, their plot relevance, and their personality, the majority of characters we meet with a boom, especially if they hold a lot of weight to the story. And hell, even the smaller characters can get a wacky introduction sometimes, because that's the point of One Piece. It's stupid, it's over the top, and it's ridiculous. So it stands to reason that characters should be ridiculous too, and their introductions cannot be anything to scoff at. In my opinion, One Piece has some of the most memorable character introductions I've ever seen. Hell, the first time we see Doflamingo is literally still talked about and made fun of in the fandom. Why? Well, for multiple reasons, but mainly for his dumbass walk. This is like the third time I've shown this in a video. I hate this horrible man and how he haunts me. But Oda has countless ways he tackles character introduction, both with previous reference of said character and with straight up slapped in the face showing of character. It's not just Oda, of course, this tends to be basic writing 101. But something he does pretty fantastically is also design of character. Character design doesn't always mean anything for an introduction, but in terms of the powerful people of this world, I'd say it holds a pretty big part to add to that boom factor. You can introduce whoever with as much fanfare as you want, but if the design doesn't match the words, you're not going to get that wow. Is any of this making sense? An absolute banger example of this, and a really fantastic introduction that I'm sure a lot of you will agree with, is Mihawk. Because not only was his prelude that he was the best swordsman in the world, and not only did he cut a ship in half, but look at his setup. Look at his entire outfit and being. Oda knew the introduction of Mihawk had to be big, and not only that, he realized the design had to match the legend. After all, imagine saying, this is Big Balls McGee, and then you see them and they don't have big balls. Mihawk could be the best swordsman ever, which he is, but if he looked like this, somehow I don't think anyone would care. But my man not only has the esteemed title of the best swordsman in the world, and not only was it said he cut a whole ship in half, he floats in on a goddamn coffin boat. With the appearance, the design, and the overall demeanor of his introduction, Mihawk gives off absolute power. And of course, every word that comes out of this man's mouth is part of it, because what we discover is he's bored. Why did he chase the Don Krieg pirates? Because he could. Why did he chop their whole ship in half? For fun, obviously. Everything he's saying here has been carefully picked to give us a better sense of his character and personality from a few pages alone. In fact, him saying he chased down Don Krieg just to kill time left a huge impact on me, due to that being something only someone truly powerful could really do. He's threatening for sure, but most importantly, he's interesting, because we've discovered the most powerful swordsman in the world is bored as all hell. And again, we get this from seconds of dialogue without him spoon feeding it to us. From his demeanor to his design to his huge stupid sword, everything about Mihawk left an insane impact. I'd say this is a pretty perfect example of just how to introduce a character this important. In terms of design making a mark, Doflamingo also falls into this category. Like I said, he has his goofy walk, but his design is insanely extremely eye-catching and pretty on par with his personality. Loud and obnoxious. The first time you see Doffy, the immediate instinct is, what the hell is that thing? And of course, just from the meeting he's in, we find his personality is as insane and untamable as his design indicates. If you want to introduce a big character, you certainly need a big design, or all actions and dialogue in the world will not save you from the audience going, well, I mean, you don't need it, but One Piece has certainly got us expecting it. All I'm saying is, if you have Big Balls McGee look like Norm Al Guy, there will certainly be a lack of impression. And Oda has certainly figured out the formula to making an impression. From what I can tell, and again, in terms of writing in general, Oda has two ways he introduces character. The first thing he does is lead up to them in mention of name or status, just like he did with the warlords, and leaves that to simmer to build hype, so to speak. And I don't mean hype like monkeys screaming and hooting waiting to get banana hype. I mean leaving us with expectations of a character that we expect to be met. This is like a pre-introduction introduction, and it's a risky one considering if you don't meet those expectations, the actual character introduction will be a major letdown. But considering Mihawk is part of this type of character introduction, I'd say Oda knows how to handle it. A good example of this is also Jinbe, who teased us for years in the making until we finally saw him for the first time in Impel Down. Cue audience cheering for the fish daddy. Zoro also somewhat falls into this category, but I'll get back to him. And then the second one, of course, is just a general introduction with zero prelude. This is characters like Sanji, Usopp, Robin, etc, etc. Look, I don't think I need to explain that one. I know you've all got big brains out there. Anyways, something that impresses me in regards to Oda's character introductions is just how much information he manages to fit in about said character in very little time. I know this sounds ironic since One Piece is a long series, but Oda really makes sure not to waste a single page. It's why I can be caught saying that yes, One Piece is a long series, but everything matters. Maybe not all of it matters for the greater good in the long run, but everything holds a purpose for something, even if it's just a side venture. If something's been set up in the chapters of the 500s, you can always go back to the 100s and find exactly where this event we're getting has previously been built from. It's just an extremely long example of Chekhov's gun, but due to every page having a purpose, it means the introduction of character must be meaningful and flawless. And there's no better character to use as an example of this than Zoro. Apart from Zoro's first showing being iconic in itself, after all, I'm sure many of us can picture in our minds Zoro tied up to that pole, but every single action and word here tells us everything we need to know about Zoro. In fact, in the way I'm about to break his introduction down, this will also explain what Luffy saw in Zoro to want him so badly. Now, before I really explain it, I should say the anime changed some of the original dialogue. I think this was for the better, because the original manga Zoro was a bit of a weirdo. And I don't mean weirdo like his current weirdo self. I mean the things he was saying were a bit un-Zoro-like. I have a feeling Oda may have possibly agreed with that sentiment, since I don't know how much he touches in terms of the anime, but he was certainly still finding his footing with Zoro's character to begin with. It's really funny actually, because manga Zoro not only offers us exposition in terms of just how long he's been tied up, but he starts bargaining with Luffy and Kobe to untie him, and then immediately says he's a man of his word, even though we find out he already previously made a deal to be tied up. Who is this man? Look, maybe Zoro was just suffering from hunger and dehydration, but him going, "Come here and set me free, little boy, let me out, I promise I won't bite," is not something I can imagine current Zoro saying. I think Oda was trying to bring across the information of the setting through Zoro, something he certainly didn't have to do, and something he refined from that point on in how to naturally deliver information of setting and scene. But a Zoro going, "Put your fingers through the bars of my cage, do it," is still really funny. Alright, let's break down his intro so I can dive into the efficiency of it. Like Jinbe and Mihawk, Zoro had a bit of a pre-introduction. Alvida introduced him to us as a clever guy. How funny is that? that? And we get this fun little image where he looks positively devilish. He really had a rumor he was very clever when this man was literally just going port to port trading heads for money. So we get this idea from Arvida and Kobe that Zoro is a very scary guy, even though neither have met him. Luffy decides he's going to see Zoro for himself to make up his mind, and they're on their way. And using the anime as a reference, this scene in these few seconds tells us everything we need to know about Zoro. He tells Kobe and Luffy to go away when they're watching him, giving off this whole threatening and demonic aura that was alluded to. But then a little girl approaches him, which of course is weird, because this is Zoro, demon of the East Blue, and this entire town obviously knows that. The anime changed it so this little girl and Zoro relay information in a very natural way, as she offers him food and says he hasn't eaten in days. Zoro tells her he's not hungry and that she's annoying and to scram. He ups it to say if she doesn't scram, he'll kill her, which is enough for us to go, well, he seems to be as bad as the rumors say. But as Helmeppo comes in and makes fun of Zoro, he goes over their deal and proceeds to punish the little girl. Because as we discover, helping anyone deemed a criminal means death, including children. After throwing the girl over the wall and ruining her food, Helmeppo leaves and Luffy comes to talk to Zoro. He calls Zoro a strange person after a light chat, which again, funny, and Zoro tells Luffy to feed him the ruined food. And even after hardly being able to get it down due to it being mostly dirt at this point, he asks Luffy to tell the little girl her rice balls are good. And Luffy laughs, because this introduction has established every single point of Zoro's character. First things first, he's stubborn. That's a given. He talks about being able to live throughout the rest of the days for whatever deal he has with Helmeppo, and keeps stating he will live. Second of all, he's a man of his word, to the point it could even be considered a fault. Luffy even mocks him for that, asking if Zoro's really strong if he's been tied up like this. But of course, we can pick through his words to Helmeppo that some deal has been made for this to happen. And of course, Zoro's trust of a promise is also a base to his loyalty, but that comes a little later with his joining of the Straw Hats. Either way, this aspect of him sets up where said intense loyalty comes from. But the biggest thing, he's tough, and he's scary, and he's violent. But he very much cares about the safety of people, especially an innocent little girl. What we see is Zoro screaming at a little girl that he'll kill her if she doesn't leave him alone. What we discover is he's actually desperately trying to get her out of there because he knows if she's seen with him, that could mean death for her. This is to the point that he lies to her and tells her he isn't hungry, which we discover he obviously is. As he's so starved, he eats the muddied rice ball. He previously rejected it because he was trying to make her leave as fast as possible in a big tough mean guy kind of way. And not only that, his heart is clearly a soft one, as he also wants her to know it was delicious. Zoro, demon of the East Blue, wants a little girl to know her rice balls were so yummy scrummy that he just has to tell her. But of course, the reason for that is the girl put herself in danger for him, and he's trying to show his thanks. And from all of this, we can see why Luffy laughed, because at first Zoro fit those nasty rumors put on him, but with a bit of digging, we can see Zoro's tough of words but sweet of heart. And we get this all from a few pages. In the anime, this is just a few minutes. This entire introduction was so perfectly structured to show us exactly who Zoro is. And it's also what we know Luffy sees as he smiles at Zoro's words and actions. Zoro doesn't even fight in this moment, he's literally just tied to a pole. Yet we can see his strength, will, and heart all shine through due to these crucial moments. Because all these traits first shown to us is Zoro's core of character. It's a fabulous introduction, and while I do believe the anime finally polished it, the manga does do exactly the same thing. Just with Zoro being more of a creature. But of course, when it comes to Zoro, we heard his name before we met him. So what about an example of a character who was introduced right out the gate, with no pre-mention and no pre-introduction. Oh baby, I have to do Sanji, because his introduction was also so fantastic in showing us nearly every inch of his character in a matter of pages and seconds. In the manga, he's introduced with a bowl on his head, which is awesome. I don't know why Toei removed that.
That's weird.
But from the beginning, we are told he's a sous chef. This information is presented to us due to Iron Body calling him a waiter, as one naturally would in that situation. And we discover not only is Sanji a cook, but the baratier is apparently so rough to work at, all their waiters jumped ship. We got 2 bits of info for the price of 1 through this tiniest bit of conversation. Every interaction with Sanji and Full Body was put to full use, as it opens up with Full Body proudly yelling he knows exactly what wine it is he's drinking. Sanji tells him he's dead wrong, and Full Body is confused due to calling ahead for a specific wine to be set, just to seemingly be purposefully switched out. And we know this wine would have been switched by Sanji, as he served it, who is all too happy to present that Full Body's an idiot. Our very first look is already telling us that Sanji seems to be, well, a brat. One that messes with the customers. This continues on as Sanji is called back by Full Body, and Sanji pays no attention to him as he turns to the lady instead, proceeding to flirt with her. Again, not a second wasted in presenting Sanji's nature of character. Sanji acts bratty once more to Full Body due to there being a fly in his soup, so now we know for sure he seems to pick on customers. And it escalates as Full Body flips the table. The most important part is shown here, when Sanji suddenly turns serious from the waste of food, and we hard cut to Full Body getting the shit beaten out of him by Sanji, as Sanji says, food must never be wasted. In this extremely small area of time, we get literally everything we need to know about Sanji. Due to him messing with Full Body for seemingly no reason, we discover he's a brat. He's cheeky in nature and enjoys pushing buttons. We also find he's a flirt, as he invites Full Body's date to have wine with him, which she doesn't seem opposed to, and it just rubs salt into Full Body's wound. And most of all, we discover Sanji's passion for food, or really waste of food, as he beats a customer to a near pulp due to being so angry at Full Body's disrespect towards food. From this introduction, which is in total 7 pages, we see Sanji's immaturity, flirtatiousness, passion, and general emotional being. For anyone who knows Sanji, which I'm sure you all do, we know those are core parts of Sanji. And again, that's only in 7 pages, because not a second is wasted for the introduction of these characters. Of course, this does continue on for Sanji to be held back by the other chefs as he threatens to kill Full Body due to believing he's an ignorant snob. We find Sanji's emotions run so deep and his passion runs so hot that he quite literally cannot control his anger at someone like Full Body. Sanji is a character who is all over the place emotionally, someone who's over the top and ridiculous in nearly every aspect of his life, and this introduction sure does a fantastic job at showing us just how unstable of a person Sanji seems to be. This guy has a bad attitude, both in his brattiness and his passions, and similar in how we hadn't even seen Zoro fight before knowing everything about his strength of person, we hadn't even seen Sanji cook before understanding how passionate he is about food. Of course, kindness is also a core part of Sanji's character, but that comes later as a kind of gotcha moment to show us that beneath this bad attitude we've been presented with, Sanji holds a golden heart, which is a pretty amazing setup considering most people who first meet Sanji would think he's a terribly rude person. He is a terribly rude person, and us, the audience, fall for that as well. But of course, those passions must come from somewhere, and the passions we first see translate into his kindness for people and food. Sanji's introduction successfully tricks us into thinking he's just a stupid brat who enjoys playing with customers, and will be violent towards them over something that we may think is pretty trivial. But his interaction with Gin certainly flips that around, while also still preserving the fact that Yes, Sanji is a brat, but his emotions run hot for the things he holds a passion for. Yes, he may pick a fight over the smallest of things, but there seems to be a meaningful reason for it. Either way, in a matter of only 7 pages, we learn nearly everything we need to know about Sanji, and it's in a natural, fun way through his interaction with Full Body. In the anime, this time is about 4 to 5 minutes within a single episode, and I'm sure we can all agree Sanji sure does make a huge impression from such a short first appearance. After all, to catch Luffy's attention, it stands to reason the character really needs to catch our attention too, especially if this is going to be a future Straw Hat. There's plenty of other insanely crazy introductions in One Piece that are also really perfectly done. Boa is a standout for obvious reasons, which I stated in my Boa video was just purposefully over the top to the point I found it hilarious. Yes, I do not condone kicking kittens, but it was so comical it's really hard not to laugh at. Big Mom's musical introduction in Whole Cake Island was just incredible. Oda spared no expense in making sure the hype was lived up to after we got a pre-introduction of her in Fishman Island years before actually meeting her. Kaido falling from the sky also certainly left an impression on me. I'd call that more of a pre-introduction, but it's kind of hard to forget about that one. There's also the entirety of the Worst Generation that just popped off the page due to their small lines of dialogue and unique body language. There's Frankie's ridiculous dance one, which I love so much. There's Luffy literally bursting out of a barrel, and so on and so forth. Of course, in the manga, Luffy was actually first introduced to us as a child cutting his own face, which is a pretty overzealous introduction in itself. But I must say, Toa's fine polishing of the first episode sure did show Luffy's personality and character a lot more as he happily breaks that barrel open. Anyways, I think I've said enough at this point. As I said at the beginning, One Piece just does a fantastic job at character introduction. I'm sure many of you have noticed that upon first meeting a big or important character, the scene can just stick with you. They sure stuck with me, and I totally encourage everyone to think about just how important these introductions are. Not just because I'm trying to assign everyone English homework or anything, but because I believe understanding these types of things can really help a person appreciate a series like this a lot more. I personally am just very impressed with Oda's writing. I'm impressed with his efficiency. I'm impressed with the casualness in which he writes, and I'm impressed with his insane show don't tell ability. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. He wastes no time in establishing all the important aspects of a character we first meet. And let me tell you, that takes a lot of talent to make feel natural while still leaving an impact. So just sit with that thought for a while. And here's hoping it helps us appreciate this series a lot more together. And with that, thanks for watching. Sorry for being a nerd, but I still hope this was enjoyable. I've always enjoyed watching videos that cover topics such as this, and Oda's style of writing is something that I do think needs to be appreciated and analyzed more. He's really fantastic at what he does, and I'm the type of person who just needs to unpack why it's so fantastic. If you have a favorite character introduction or one that really left a huge impression on you, let me know. I want nothing more than to hear it, because when it comes to One Piece, the impact of character introduction is pretty endless. Just a quick reminder that I do have a Patreon, and if you'd like to support me there, I'd really appreciate it. However, I know not everyone can support me in that way, and just watching and sharing these videos does more than you can imagine for me. If there's anything you'd like to see me cover, One Piece or otherwise, please let me know, and I'll see you in whatever I make next. See ya!